Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dominic, and this is my final health campaign ad that I've chosen to do on anti-vaping and just overall e-cigarette usage among young adults. So to give a little bit of a background before I just dive completely into this, vaping and e-cigarette usage has been a huge active growing issue over the last decade and a half. It's severely popular among the younger generations who have very much grown up with it. I think the big thing with my ad that I wanted to focus on was that the long-term effects are very unknown, and it's kind of scary when we don't know what we don't know. And with this, I wanted to split up there's alternatives for vaping and e-cigarette usage because a lot of young adults use e-cigarettes as a stress relieving solution, and I'm here to present that there's obviously alternatives that are also going to be stress relieving solutions that aren't just vaping. So my target audience, as mentioned, is going to be younger adults, primarily between the ages of 18 and 25, because this consists of a lot of my peers and a lot of college students who have grown up with vaping that has, inclined around them. The younger generations, they feature many users, and as I mentioned, they've grown up around this topic, or you could say health issue. They face a lot. They're going to face a lot of these consequences because this is going to be the first generation that goes decades while using these products. And my ads mainly going to be tailored towards vape users who use this product for stress relief, and they're likely going to be addicted to nicotine as well. So my goal with this ad primarily is just I want to motivate younger generations to just stop vaping and avoid it. Also, I want the generations to actually care about this health topic. I feel like a lot of people see past this health issue because there's so many ads about it out there, kind of similar to COVID, and you need to find a way to make your health ad, like worth looking at. It has to be unique, it has to stand out. And with this, I'm going to use this guinea pig idea to display a threat. I'm going to display a guinea pig cartoon in all of my content. And then with this, I'm also going to display the alternative stress relievers. So I use 4 different sources to kind of gather my background information and how it connects to my target audience. I'm not putting the exact links in this. I'm just kind of summarizing what each source was about. One was about the risk in vaping with younger generations, and another one was with the health effects of e-cigarette usage in young adults. The big one, which connects to my whole objective, is the long-term effects that are not fully understood. And then, this last one kind of hits home with me because it affects a lot of my peers, which is why do college students use e-cigarettes? So this is my original flyer, and I went with the flyer, meme, and video as my 3 pieces of content. So I'm going to dissect each of them a little bit as I get started. So this is my flyer. There's 3 sets of text, a recommended action in the middle. There's the angry guinea pig, which I mentioned. I'm adding the guinea pig because humans are essentially serving as a trial with this new product for the decades to come. There's an anti-vape logo, which I will be using in all 3 pieces of my content. And then there's the basic writing effects, which is just adding color and visual effects to your writing. Here's the meme I've created. I would consider this a meme because of the kind of comical vapor I put with a guinea pig over their face. With that, I have a clever heading title that kind of goes along with it, kind of catches attention from people who are active e-cigarette users. And I also put the anti-vape logo at the bottom right. As I mentioned, I'm going to use this on all my content. And there's also the basic effects on the writing. So here's the video. It's going to be a YouTube video embedded, so I'll play it in a second. First, I'm going to explain a little bit. So this is going to be a slideshow of 5 image creatives that I have made. It's also going to display anti-vape logos. There's going to be pictures of vapes and young adults who are users. Once again, I want to show the guinea pig because it's kind of my main idea and theme of this whole content campaign. Also, just because the guinea pig is going to be kind of the unique displayment that's going to attract viewers and want people to read more. The biggest part of this video is that it's going to display a consequence, the solutions and alternatives, and then as well, obviously the basic effects for writing and other things. So I'm going to quiet down so you're able to hear this. So there was my original video. So after making these three, I determined that the theory that's going to be most embedded into this is the extended parallel process model. You can see this through the threat that's used, and it's displayed to motivate actions, which is the preventive behaviors of avoiding vapes. There's efficacy presented, which is through the alternative solutions I talk about. I'll go into a little bit more depth in the next slide about the 4 basic fear appeal components. I think it's the biggest part. This is the part that's very much displayed and embedded in the ad and is going to directly affect the audience and also measure the audience's attention to it. There's the fear control through unknown consequences. So like I said, I think what we don't know what we don't know, which is kind of a scary reality, which is going to strike fear in an audience, especially an audience who are users of this product. So here are the 4 components. We see severity through the long-term effects that are unknown. Susceptibility, which is that any user could be a guinea pig. Self-efficacy, which is pretty much recommending that if you put the vape down and find alternatives, this is going to be a great solution. And it's a solution because in the response efficacy because you avoid long-term effects. And the best part is you also avoid the toxic chemical intake, which is just not great for your body. So the intended media outlets for these content ads are going to be Instagram and TikTok, mainly because these are great picture and video displayment apps. For the video, it's going to be best suited for TikTok, primarily just because it's a video platform and only a video platform, meaning that the pictures will only just go on Instagram. All 3 creatives could go on Instagram, but I believe the video will obviously be best for TikTok. And this is going to receive the most engagement overall on these 2 platforms. Here's the first stage of pre-testing. So I selected 12 peers of mine, all college students between the ages of 18 and 25. They fit my tailored age, of course, with my target audience. The big thing about my audience for the survey is that I did not want to give them the topic before participating. That way I didn't have any initial thought going into the questions and then have any sort of bias beforehand. Also, they could just give me straight answers that without any prior knowledge. And then all the questions were qualitative, so they all yielded qualitative answers. So it was the survey questions, and I'm not going to go thoroughly into all of these, but I do have to mention that 5 and 7 were the most useful because 5 tells me what's worth adding from my target audience's point of view. And then number 7's going to tell me what's worth keeping, what's effective as of now. So some of the feedback I got from the first stage of pre-testing, people wanted more icons. They also wanted more images embedded. With this, they wanted us to eliminate white space. The biggest problem I had as of now was I was talking about alternative solutions, but I wasn't presenting those solutions. So I ended up providing a credible link, but this is when they gave me feedback saying you should probably add some sort of more information, which I knew would probably be best suited to be in a link. So I also got wording recommendations. I had one person recommend actually changing the music because it's a little bit too upbeat for this type of campaign, which displays a lot of negative consequences. And then one person also suggested playing with the transitions between the pictures on the video itself. So this is after the first pre-testing of the flyer. I added a link for alternatives, the smokefree.gov. This is going to display actual solutions for stress relieving activities outside of using e-cigarettes. I put a hazard icon to kind of draw attention to it. I changed anyone to any user because anyone is not susceptible to this. It's any user who's going to be susceptible to these consequences. And then with the link, I also eliminated white space. I thought about adding an image at the bottom, but I thought I'd just add too much clutter and kind of it would lower the effectiveness of this ad. So this is the meme after initial pre-testing. You can see I didn't really play with the picture too much. One person suggested adding a border, but I thought it wouldn't make the picture look good with the white background. I add lift effects to all 3 sets of text so the text are visually appealing. Similar to the other content ad with the flyer, I added a solution link, and I'm also going to add that in my video. And then I thought more images here would have been just too much, would have made it cluttered, would have made it just too much content for the audience will make them just get lost and also may not read as much. I'm gonna play the video after explaining a little bit more of what I added. So I added 3 more anti-vape logos. I actually ended up changing the music as a whole. I added the alternative solutions link, as I mentioned. There were a couple grammatical errors that I changed. And then I also slightly changed the transitions between the pictures. So that was the video after the initial pre-testing. So then comes the second pre-testing. I did a completely new group of participants because I didn't want any sort of redundant answers or participants who just didn't know how to answer a question because they had already done it beforehand on my original ads. And then this group also fit my tailored age for this content ad because there was other college students between the ages of 18 and 25. And once again, I did not give the topic beforehand to eliminate any sort of initial thought or bias. And it was the same set of questions, so all of them were qualitative, which yielded qualitative answers once again. So here's a little bit of the feedback I got. Not nearly as much as last time, which is very ideal and means that my content was getting more effective over time. I had 1 grammar correction. I had 1 person suggest changing the text colors, which I ended up not doing. But anyway, I ended up making a picture on the video longer because I think people thought the pictures were changing too quickly, which is actually huge because I want my audience to actually absorb all the content and see everything. If the pictures are too short, they're not actually gonna see everything. 1 person suggested saying don't be a guinea pig, but what I've learned in this class is I want to avoid the word don't in my health campaign ads, so I had to not take his suggestion. Then also with the flyer, I'll go to the next picture. 1 person suggested centering the link with the hazard sign a little bit better, and I couldn't agree more just because it was shifted a little bit left, and just obviously centering things like that is just gonna add on to more engagement from the audience. And I also made sure all the there was effects on all of the text because there were not beforehand. And then here's my meme that was finalized. I didn't have any major changes here other than 1 person suggested saying change there is too many to there are too many when in reference to there are too many unknowns because it's plural. That does sound better. And that actually strengthens my meme a ton because grammar mistakes and typos are going to hurt the credibility of your ad. And I mean, imagine being an audience member and seeing it. When you see a typo, you don't take it as serious. It doesn't seem valid, and you might not necessarily keep reading. You might just kind of laugh at it. So here's the final video. I'm gonna explain before I show it again. I adjusted the time on each picture to make it so my audience actually sees every frame. I adjusted the music time frame a little bit with the images. And then I did get some wording suggestions, as I mentioned, like the word don't, but I wanted to avoid that. So here's my final video. So after this entire process, I had dozens and dozens of takeaways, but this is the few that could fit on the screen and that were probably the most relevant. So the first one is that the audience is always going to be most engaged with appealing pictures, effects, visual graphics. They don't want to see a lot of words, so you got to think about having a even ratio of yes, I need to have words to explain what the audience needs to know, but I also need to have things that draw an engagement, which is going to be pictures and things that are visually appealing. With that, too many words can be very boring, so you need to find that ratio of appealing content and graphics to actual writing. You always want to keep your objectives in mind. I feel like when you don't keep your objective in mind when you're adjusting things, revising, you might steer away in a direction you didn't want to go. Then the most important part I think is always keep your audience like perspective in mind. When you're designing, you want to think about how they're going to interpret it, which is very important because my audience interpretation is going to be more important than mine because I don't necessarily make up my audience at all times. So there were a few challenges along the way. Kind of similar to the last project, I wish I had more time for surveying because it's just always going to be more beneficial. You get more participants. You might be able to throw away a little more of the surveys that were just not helpful to me. But when you only have 12 participants, it gets a little harder with that. Changing all three creatives can be very hard. So for example, I might want to change something with the video, but it might completely change the information given, which will make it different than what the flyer or meme were presenting. So I need to make sure when I made changes to all three creatives were being changed relatively the same way. One big thing I've learned with surveying is not all feedback is going to be useful. That's just a given usually, but you learn along the way that you can't just embed everything. You can't be a people pleaser. And then I think a huge part about this is that not my survey participants are not taking CompStrat 477, so they don't have all of the prior knowledge that I have with the theoretical underpinnings and all the psychology going into these ads. So yes, they can give me helpful feedback with writing and graphic design, but they can't necessarily give me feedback on how the theories are going to impact the audience. So conclusion, I believe my health campaign ads obviously grew slowly over time because I received less negative feedback from my survey participants. And I just believe that my target audience was engaging with this ad the way I wanted to, which means that it was effective in its intended use. I learned a lot from this whole entire process, from redesigning and taking feedback and figuring out what's going to work best for my audience. And then I think the most important part about this whole class in general is that campaign designs got a little bit easier over time because I've been doing the same steps over and over, which I can understand why people who design campaigns for a living it gets much, much easier over time. And it's a very simple but thorough process. Thank you for listening. If you want to see any more of my YouTube videos that were used as videos in this campaign ad, don't feel free to click on these links or just look up Dominic Kirstinger on YouTube, which you should get the videos immediately. Here are my sources that are also going to be in my analysis paper. And once again, thank you for listening.